Judgment based on appearance blinds people to real capability. It happens fast, often before anyone says a word. A glance, a smirk, a raised eyebrow, and suddenly a full story is written in someone else's head without a single fact to support it. In the moment when she stepped onto that range, the pink rifle became more important to the SEALs around her than her training, her hours of practice, or the discipline that shaped her skill. The color told them everything they thought they needed to know. It framed her as soft, unthreatening, and out of place. None of them paused to consider why she chose that rifle or what she might be capable of. They saw the surface, and the surface was enough for them. That is the trap of appearance-based judgment. It is lazy, it is loud, and it gets in the way of truth. People lean on appearances because they are quick and convenient. Deciding who someone is based on what they look like takes no thought. It gives us the illusion of understanding without requiring any real effort. But convenience is not accuracy, and it often pushes us to underestimate or dismiss the very people who could surprise us the most. When you reduce someone to an outfit, a color, a body type, or a style, you miss the story underneath. You miss the experiences that shaped them, the grind they endured, and the sharp edges of talent they worked hard to sharpen. This kind of judgment does not just insult the person being judged. It limits the person doing the judging. You cannot learn from someone you refuse to take seriously. In her case, the pink rifle acted like a spotlight on the bias in the room. The SEALs were not trying to be subtle. They treated her gear like a punchline. They assumed she brought novelty to a place built on seriousness and precision. But what they were really doing was exposing their own blind spots. A group trained to see threats, details, and patterns failed to see what mattered most. They missed the calm confidence in the way she handled her weapon. They missed the focus in her posture. They missed the preparation it takes to make a long-range shot that tests the limits of both shooter and equipment. Appearance distracted them so completely that they forgot to consider skill. This kind of bias shows up everywhere. It shows up in classrooms when a kid who looks shy is expected to stay quiet, even when they have something important to say. It shows up in companies when someone who dresses differently is overlooked for leadership roles, regardless of their competence. It shows up in everyday life when people make snap assumptions about strength, intelligence, or character based on things like hair color, clothing choices, or hobbies. These assumptions pile up, and they carve out invisible barriers. They push people into boxes they never asked for and often do not fit. The danger of judging by appearance is that it leads to missed opportunities. You miss the chance to recognize real talent. You miss the chance to learn from someone who thinks differently. You miss the chance to be proven wrong in a way that expands you. When people judge quickly, they close the door before they even check what is on the other side. The SEALs on that range closed the door the moment they saw pink, and they had no idea how fast that door was about to be kicked open. Underestimation can be a powerful motivator, but it should never be the standard someone must overcome just to be taken seriously. She should not have needed a 5,000-meter shot to make them rethink their assumptions. Her presence, her training, and her readiness should have been enough. But too often the world waits for proof before offering respect. It demands a display, a performance, a dramatic moment that forces everyone to recalibrate. And while those moments make great stories, they also highlight the problem. The bar for being taken seriously should not be set higher for someone who does not meet a stereotype. Appearance-based judgment shrinks the world. It keeps us from seeing potential where it truly lives. It tells us lies dressed as instincts. It replaces observation with assumption and turns confidence into arrogance. When you judge someone by the surface, you trade insight for comfort. You trade curiosity for certainty. You choose the easy route and convince yourself it is the smart one. Skill speaks louder than stereotypes. In any room where assumptions run high, real ability has a way of cutting through noise and forcing people to rethink what they believed was true. Stereotypes give people a shortcut for judgment. They let someone decide who is capable before they see a single action. But skill exposes those shortcuts for what they are. It shows the gap between what people expect and what someone can actually do. The moment she set her rifle on the rest and locked in her breathing pattern, She was already speaking a language far clearer than the whispers behind her. Technique has its own voice. It shows itself in posture, in timing, in the small habits built from repetition. Anyone who looks closely can see it, but people who cling to stereotypes rarely look closely at all. Stereotypes feel comfortable because they offer a template. They tell you what a person like this should be, how they should behave, and what they should achieve. But comfort has nothing to do with accuracy. Most stereotypes come from fragments of truth stretched so thin they lose all meaning. They become easy labels that save people from thinking. In her case, the stereotype was simple. A woman with a pink rifle at a range full of elite operators must be inexperienced, untrained, or seeking attention. It did not matter that she carried herself with the ease of someone who had spent countless hours behind a scope. It did not matter that her gear was meticulously maintained. The color of her rifle confirmed the stereotype in their minds before she had a chance to demonstrate anything. Skill works differently. It demands respect from anyone willing to witness it. The way she stabilized her body, adjusted for wind, and dialed her optics said more about her capability than any introduction ever could. Stereotypes crumble when confronted with evidence, and precision becomes the kind of evidence that leaves no room for debate. The SEALs could pretend not to take her seriously while she walked onto the range, but once she settled into her shot routine, their narrative had cracks. Skill reveals itself in calmness under pressure, and she showed that calm long before her finger touched the trigger. There is something powerful about watching someone excel in a way you did not expect. It forces you to confront your own bias. When someone you underestimated delivers at a level you cannot ignore, you become aware of how much your assumptions have misled you. People often cling to stereotypes because they make the world feel predictable. If you can sort people into boxes quickly, you feel like you have control. But skilled individuals break that illusion. They prove that ability does not follow the patterns people assume. It shows up in quiet people, overlooked people, unexpected places, and yes, even in someone carrying a rifle painted in a color others mock. Skill also has a way of shifting the atmosphere. Before she fired, the range was full of small laughter and doubt. The moment she prepared for the shot, that energy changed. Focus has weight, and she carried it. The SEALs around her might not have understood everything she was doing, but they recognized pieces of it. They recognized the discipline of controlled breathing, the patience of waiting for the right moment, and the confidence needed to trust your own calculation. Even without the shot, her actions whispered that she belonged there. Stereotypes fought to keep her in a box, but skill was stronger, and it was already rewriting their expectations. Stereotypes weaken the person who uses them. They force you to overlook talent until it is too obvious to ignore. They make you slow to learn, slow to adapt, and too quick to assume. Skill, on the other hand, strengthens everyone who pays attention. When you watch someone with real mastery, you learn. You see new techniques. You expand your understanding of what is possible. You also learn humility, because you are reminded that excellence can come from anyone, regardless of what they look like or what gear they carry. If those SEALs had watched her closely from the start, they would have recognized her ability long before her shot reached its target. But stereotypes blinded them until sound and impact forced them to reconsider. Skill does not need to announce itself with noise or bravado. It shows up in consistency, in execution, and in results. It proves that stereotypes are flimsy and unreliable. It proves that people are far more than the assumptions placed on them. It proves that capability cannot be predicted based on appearance or expectations. In the end, stereotypes fade, but the memory of someone who performed with precision stays. Skill speaks every time someone takes their craft seriously, and it always speaks louder than the labels others try to attach to them. Preparation beats ego every time. Ego can make someone feel ready long before they have earned it, but preparation builds the kind of readiness that does not crack under pressure. When she stepped onto that range, she carried more than a rifle. She carried every hour spent adjusting her scope in low light, every long morning practicing steady breathing, every session spent studying ballistic charts until the numbers felt like muscle memory. None of that was loud. None of it showed on the surface. But all of it waited beneath her calm expression, ready to support her the moment she settled into position. Ego cannot compete with that kind of depth, because ego relies on confidence without foundation, while preparation creates confidence built on proof. People with strong egos tend to assume the moment will bend to them. They believe natural talent or reputation is enough to carry them through anything. In a place like a long-range shooting environment, ego falls apart fast. The wind does not care how elite someone thinks they are. Distance does not shrink for pride. Timing does not adjust for bragging rights. Preparation is the only thing that matters, and it shows instantly. You cannot fake fundamentals. You cannot bluff through technique. You either did the work or you did not, and the result reflects that with unforgiving precision. When she aligned her body with the rifle, slowed her inhale, and counted the rhythm she had practiced thousands of times, she was speaking in the language of preparation. It was a quiet language, but it carried more weight than any swagger around her. Ego loves to underestimate others. It feeds on the idea that someone else could not possibly be as skilled, as sharp, or as capable. That is why the SEALs thought her pink rifle was something to laugh at. Their ego built a wall that blocked them from seeing her preparation. They assumed that because they were seasoned operators, they held ownership of the standard. They forgot that mastery is not exclusive to a title. They forgot that someone outside their circle can train just as hard, study just as deeply, and commit just as completely. Ego convinced them they already knew her limits, even though they had not seen a single action from her. Preparation let her walk in without needing to prove anything to herself. She had already proven it in the hours they never saw. There is a calm that comes from preparation. It shows up in high-pressure moments where most people would feel their pulse spike. It shows up when distractions try to pull focus away. It shows up when others watch, waiting for you to stumble. She carried that calm because she had earned it. Every scenario she practiced, every variable she accounted for, every correction she drilled into her routine helped her control the environment instead of being controlled by it. Ego, on the other hand, tends to collapse under scrutiny. It thrives when no one is watching. But the moment a challenge becomes real, ego becomes fragile. It shakes, it doubts, and it relies on excuses. Preparation does the opposite. It steadies you. It clears your mind. It reminds you that you have already fought this battle long before today. Preparation also sharpens instincts. When she looked downrange, she was not guessing. She was calculating, not in a loud or obvious way, but in the seamless flow of thought that comes from repetition. She knew how her rifle behaved. She knew how small shifts in wind could affect her shot. She knew how far she could push the limits of her equipment because she had tested those limits again and again. Ego does not create instincts. It creates assumptions. And assumptions are what lead people to misread situations, misjudge conditions, or overestimate their own ability. When the distance hit 5,000 meters, no amount of ego could have helped her. Only preparation could. Watching someone who prepared well can be humbling. It shows how much work excellence requires. It also exposes how little ego contributes to real performance. The SEALs watching her that day learned this lesson fast. Her preparation made their laughter feel small. Her focus made their assumptions look careless. Ego created the joke they thought they saw, but preparation created the reality that silenced it. It is easy to talk about confidence, but it is far harder to build the kind of confidence that survives pressure. That kind comes from showing up repeatedly, training when no one is watching, and pushing yourself when the results are not glamorous. Preparation has no shortcuts. It demands patience, humility, and consistency. It rewards those who respect the process and punishes those who lean on pride instead of work. When she pulled the trigger, everything she had practiced aligned in one clean moment. Ego had nothing to do with it. Preparation carried the shot from her hands all the way to the distant target, proving again that ego makes noise, but preparation delivers results. Precision under pressure reveals true mastery. Anyone can perform well when the environment is calm, when the stakes are low, and when no one is watching. But the real test comes when the moment tightens, when the world narrows to a single task, and every distraction tries to pull you off balance. Pressure exposes gaps. It exposes rushed habits, weak fundamentals, and confidence built on anything less than real discipline. Precision is not just about hitting a target. It is about staying sharp when the weight of the moment grows heavy. It is about shutting out noise, shutting out doubt, and trusting the work you have done. When she lay behind that rifle with a line of elite operators waiting to see her fail, she was not just fighting distance. She was fighting pressure layered with expectations, assumptions, and the eyes of people who already believed they knew her limits. Pressure changes how the body behaves. Breathing shifts, muscles tighten, and the smallest tremor can throw everything off. For a long-range shooter, those subtle changes matter more than anything. At 5,000 meters, even the tiniest flaw becomes a major error by the time the bullet reaches its destination. Precision demands control over every detail that lies within your influence. It demands that you slow the world down even when your heart wants to speed up. She understood that. She did not fire quickly to impress anyone. She did not rush to silence their laughter. She moved through her routine with the same care she used when training alone. That is what mastery looks like under pressure. It refuses to break rhythm, even when people expect it to. Pressure also has a way of exposing who is faking confidence. Ego tries to act strong, but real mastery stays stable because it knows what it can do. She proved her stability the moment she adjusted her breathing. Each inhale and exhale was measured, deliberate, and controlled. That kind of discipline does not come from talent alone. It comes from countless hours spent practicing under different conditions so that stress cannot sabotage performance. Precision is the art of eliminating what you cannot control by perfecting everything you can. She could not control the comments behind her, the reputations around her, or the weight of their judgment. But she could control her body alignment, her focus on the reticle, and her timing. She did exactly that. True mastery also shows itself in patience. Under pressure, people want instant results. They want the relief of acting quickly, even when quickness ruins the outcome. She resisted that impulse. She waited for the right moment. She listened to the wind, felt the subtle shifts, and let the environment settle before committing. Patience is not passive. It is an active choice to value accuracy over speed, even when the world pressures you to deliver fast. Her patience told a story that everyone watching could feel. It signaled experience, confidence, and control. It showed that she was not intimidated by the distance or the audience. Precision under pressure comes from clarity. To hit a distant target, you cannot allow emotion to interrupt the process. You cannot be distracted by who doubts you or who expects greatness. You must narrow your thoughts to the necessities. When she looked through the scope, she was not thinking about proving herself. She was thinking about wind drift, bullet drop, mirage, and the timing of her trigger pull. She separated the task from the noise. That clarity is what separates the trained from the untrained, the disciplined from the complacent. It is the skill that turns a near impossible shot into a controlled execution of steps that have been rehearsed again and again. Pressure often reveals what someone has ignored in training. If you skip the fundamentals, pressure exposes it. If you rely on luck, pressure crushes it. If you hold on to doubt, pressure magnifies it. She stepped into a scenario designed to magnify every weakness, and instead of collapsing, she used the same precision she practiced for years. That is what makes mastery so striking. It does not get louder under pressure. It gets cleaner. When the shot broke, it was not a moment of chance. It was a moment of alignment between preparation, patience, discipline, and control. The environment had tried to shake her. The audience had tried to define her. The distance had tried to challenge her. But precision under pressure is not about fighting those forces. It is about outlasting them, outthinking them, and performing with a steadiness that forces the world to adjust to you instead of the other way around. Watching someone deliver precision in a high-pressure moment is unforgettable. It defies expectations. It shifts the atmosphere. It makes people reconsider what they thought they knew. The SEALs who laughed at her pink rifle witnessed something they could not dismiss. Her calm, her technique, and her flawless control spoke in a way nothing else could. In that moment, precision was not just a skill. It was proof. It was presence. It was mastery revealing itself through the most unforgiving test a shooter can face. Respect is earned through action, not assumptions. People can talk about what they can do, how skilled they are, or how tough they claim to be, but none of that matters when the moment arrives. Respect grows from what someone proves, not from what others imagine. When she walked onto that range, the SEALs had already decided where she stood in their mental hierarchy. They placed her at the bottom without hesitation, not because of anything she had done, but because of their own assumptions. They respected each other based on shared experience, reputation, and the badges they carried. But respect built solely on identity instead of performance is fragile. It can be shaken the second someone outside that circle delivers something undeniable. Action has a way of rewriting the room. Even before her shot, she started changing their perception. The way she handled her rifle, the way she set up, the way she ignored their smirks spoke louder than any argument she could have made. She did not ask for their respect. She did not try to convince them. She let her actions speak in small, steady signals. That is how real respect begins. It grows from watching someone stay composed when others get rattled. It grows from seeing competence expressed through repetition and practiced movements. It grows from someone choosing discipline when everyone else expects chaos. Assumptions, on the other hand, are flimsy. They rely on surface-level thinking. They collapse the second reality pushes back. The SEALs assumed she was inexperienced. They assumed her rifle meant she cared more about style than performance. They assumed she would freeze under pressure or fire a sloppy shot. They built those assumptions without witnessing a single action from her. Respect cannot be built on those kinds of shortcuts. It requires evidence. It requires moments where someone shows who they are through what they do, not through what people expect. Action also reveals character. Anyone can perform well when the environment is friendly, but character shows when someone stands firm in a place where they are doubted or dismissed. She did not let their opinions shake her. She did not let their whispers speed her up or break her flow. She stayed focused because her goal was not attention. Her goal was accuracy. This is the kind of character that forces people to reevaluate their perspective. Respect grows when someone proves they are not influenced by noise. It grows when someone shows they have nothing to prove to a room that already judged them, because their standard is internal, not external. Respect built through action creates a deeper impact. When you show competence through performance, people do not forget it. They may forget what you said, they may forget the details of your background, but they will not forget the moment you backed up your commitment with results. Her shot became that moment. It was more than a technical achievement. It was a statement formed purely from execution. No speech could have shifted the energy of that range the way her trigger pull did. The impact traveled farther than the bullet. It reached the mindset of every person watching. Assumptions often come from a place of comfort. It is easier for people to believe their first impression was correct than to admit they were wrong. But action forces confrontation. When she hit a target at a distance most shooters never attempt, their assumptions had nowhere to hide. They had to face the truth. Respect is not something they decide to give. It is something they must acknowledge when reality leaves them no alternative. In that instant, every stereotype, every dismissive thought, and every quiet laugh became irrelevant. Respect earned through action also lasts longer. Words fade and reputations can be inflated, but demonstrated skill anchors itself in memory. The SEALs would remember the moment not because of the color of her rifle, but because she did something that demanded respect from anyone who understands the level of mastery required. The people who doubted her the most would remember it the longest, because their own assumptions made the contrast sharper. Seeing someone excel when they expected failure creates a shift that cannot be undone. Action builds credibility. It builds trust in a way that cannot be faked. When someone consistently delivers, people learn to take them seriously even before they perform again. That is how respect works at the deepest level. It is not about charm or appearance. It is about proving that when pressure rises, you rise with it. She proved that. She showed that true skill does not ask for permission to be recognized. It shows up, performs, and lets the results speak. Respect follows because it has no other choice, and assumptions fall silent in the presence of clear, undeniable action. One bold moment can rewrite an entire narrative. People may hold on to their assumptions, their judgments, and their quiet prejudices for years, but a single undeniable action can break those beliefs in seconds. Before she took her shot, the story the SEALs told themselves about her was simple. She was an outsider with a pink rifle, someone who did not belong in their circle and would never match their level. That narrative held strong because nothing had challenged it yet. Narratives built on assumptions are fragile, but they remain standing until reality hits them hard enough to knock them down. Her bold moment became that force. It did not ask for permission, it did not seek approval, and it did not wait for them to change their minds. It arrived as soon as her bullet reached the target and carried the truth with it. A bold moment is not just about action. It is about timing. It lands at the intersection of preparation, courage, and opportunity. She had all three. Most people hesitate when the moment arrives. They second-guess themselves or shrink because the pressure feels too heavy. But she leaned into it. She trusted her hours of practice. She trusted her own calculations. She trusted that her capability mattered more than the opinions behind her. That trust gave her the steadiness needed to commit fully to the shot. A bold moment does not happen when someone is halfway certain. It happens when someone decides to push past doubt and rely on what they know to be true about their own skill. Narratives stay intact because people rarely challenge them. It is easier to let others believe what they want. It is easier to avoid friction. But bold actions cut through that comfort. They confront bias with evidence so strong that even the people who doubted you can no longer dismiss it. When her shot landed, every smirk, every whispered remark, and every assumption collapsed under the weight of what she accomplished. The SEALs' narrative about her did not just shift. It flipped. Reality forced them to rewrite the story they had built in their heads, not because she demanded it, but because her performance left them no other option. One bold moment also reveals how wrong first impressions can be. People often assume they know who someone is within seconds. They sort, categorize, and judge with confidence that is rarely justified. They create narratives based on appearance, tone, or a single detail like the color of a rifle. But bold moments expose how shallow that kind of thinking really is. When someone you underestimated delivers something you cannot ignore, you realize how much you misunderstood them. You realize your assumptions said more about you than about them. Her moment forced them to confront that truth. It showed them the danger of believing they had her figured out before she ever touched the trigger. Bold moments create silence. Not the awkward kind, but the heavy kind. The kind that follows a display of skill so sharp that everyone present feels the shift. That silence is recognition forming. It is respect taking shape. It is the collective realization that the old narrative died and a new one is being written right in front of them. After her shot, the silence said everything. It said they were wrong. It said she belonged. It said her actions had more authority than their opinions ever did. That kind of silence is earned, not granted. A bold moment stays with people long after it ends. It becomes a reference point. It becomes a story whispered among those who witnessed it. It becomes the reason someone rethinks how quickly they judge the next person who doesn't fit their expectations. The SEALs would carry that memory with them, not because they wanted to be proven wrong, but because the moment was too strong to forget. Bold actions carve themselves into memory with a permanence words rarely achieve. Her shot became part of their understanding, not through explanation, but through experience. A single bold moment can also reshape someone's own belief about who they are. Even though she already trusted her skill, delivering under pressure strengthened that trust. It confirmed that her preparation held up in the most unforgiving conditions. It reinforced that she could remain steady even when surrounded by doubt. Moments like that leave marks on your confidence. They show you that you can rise to meet a challenge that others think you cannot handle. They anchor you for future tests. Bold moments do not always come with fanfare. Sometimes they come quietly, through discipline, focus, and execution. But their impact is loud. They rewrite narratives not through force, but through clarity. They remind people that truth does not need decoration. It only needs a single, undeniable moment to stand on its own. That is what her shot did. It cleared away the fog of assumptions. It replaced every shallow judgment with evidence stronger than any opinion. And once a narrative is rewritten by a moment like that, it rarely returns to what it was before.